I've been sitting with this for a while and I don't know what to do anymore. I'm completely stuck between guilt, fear, and wanting to do the right thing. I feel like I've been living a lie for so long, and now everything might come unraveling. I'm a 29F, married for 3 years, and I've been having a physical affair for the last 2 years with a coworker who was also a batchmate at college. It wasn't supposed to go this far, and I wish I could say I don't know how it happened, but the truth is, I do. I made bad choices over and over again. I let things progress knowing I was betraying my husband, and I kept telling myself I'd end it eventually when I had gotten it out of my system. But I didn't. Now I'm at a point where I want to end things with the AP, but it's not as simple as just walking away. He's not willing to let go. He has screenshots of our texts and sexts and is holding them over my head. He also has my nudes, which I sent in the early days when we were still in the emotional affair stage. I'm scared he'll send everything to my husband if I cut him off. The power he has over me is terrifying. It feels like every step I take is controlled by the fear of being exposed. I don't know how to break free without everything blowing up in my face. Part of what triggered me to want to end things was seeing a close friend's marriage fall apart. Her husband left her for his affair partner, and it completely broke her. Watching her go through that woke something up in me. I realized I couldn't keep doing this, hurting my husband, hurting AP's wife, hurting myself. AP recently had his second child, and the guilt has been overwhelming. His wife is at home nursing their newborn, while he's sneaking around with me in the same hideouts we've been using for years, telling her he's working overtime to feed the 3 mouths. It makes me sick to think about it. The more I think about her and her family, the worse I feel. I don't know how I let it get this far, but my biggest problem now is figuring out how or whether to tell my husband. He has no idea about the affair, and the thought of telling him terrifies me. I can't imagine the pain it would cause him. I feel like I'm living in a house of cards, and it's all going to come crashing down soon. A P could easily blow up my life if he wanted to. Every time I see a text from him, I shudder. It's so very different from the passion and excitement I felt during the early stages of our affair. I'm constantly on edge, and I desperately need to get him off my back. I've been thinking about confessing to my husband, but I'm paralyzed by fear. I have no idea how he'd react, and I fear he might consider ending our marriage, as unfathomable as it sounds. I know he loves me more than anything else, but would he love me enough to overlook this dilemma and move forward? I'm tired of living this double life. It's exhausting. So right now, I'm torn between 2 options. 1, do I come clean to my husband, knowing it might destroy our marriage and hurt him deeply, but also knowing it's the right thing to do? 2, or do I try to end things with AP quietly and amicably as possible, hope he doesn't blow things up, and never mention it to my husband, which would save my marriage and my husband's perception of me? So, dear ladies, help me make a choice. Thanks for reading. Update. D-Day was 5 days ago. I finally confessed to my husband about the 2-year physical affair I've been having. I had been trying to figure out how to tell him, and when I finally did, his reaction was worse than I could have imagined. Way worse. After I told him, he didn't say a word and stared at me. Then he just grabbed his keys and left the house. For 3 days, I didn't hear a word from him. He wouldn't answer my calls or respond to my messages. I was terrified something had happened to him. I spent 2 sleepless nights worrying about his whereabouts. During those 3 days, his family found out about the affair, and now they hate me. I've received texts from his sister and even his mom, telling me how disgusted they are with me and how I've ruined their brother's son. I am empathetic to their anger, but right now the most important thing is making things right with my husband. So I didn't dwell on their outbursts. Then, out of nowhere, 2 days ago, my husband came back home. I thought, maybe this was the beginning of reconciliation, that we could start talking about what comes next. I was hopeful that we could at least have a conversation about our marriage and where we were heading. But when I asked him about it, his mood flipped in an instant. He got angry, telling me that he didn't know what he wanted, and that it was too soon to talk about the future. Yesterday was the worst. We were both in a somewhat good mood, which felt like a small step forward. I tried to touch his hand over the counter, but then, in the blink of an eye, his mood shifted. He pushed me away and started screaming. He said things like, "You fucked AP for 2 years and you think you're still worthy of me?" He was throwing things around the room, and I was terrified. It took a long time for him to calm down, but I stayed with him the whole time. I didn't leave because I felt like I needed to be there for him, even though I didn't feel safe with him. Eventually, he stopped yelling and just went quiet. But now I don't know where we stand. The anger and pain in his eyes are haunting, and I don't know if we can come back from this. This is far worse than I imagined. I'm starting therapy soon to work on myself. I've gone no contact with the AP and cut ties with anyone who knew about the affair, but I don't know if it will be enough to save my marriage. My husband is a good man, and I know I've hurt him more than I can ever make up for. Right now, I'm conflicted. On one hand, I want to give him the space he needs and let him decide where we go from here. But on the other hand, I feel like I need to help him heal and show him that I'm committed to making things right, if he'll let me. Amidst all this, I'm having a lot of psychological and physical issues since D-Day. I have not been able to sleep long. I wake up every hour, and it's exhausting. I used to be able to sleep straight through without any problem. The constant anxiety over whether my husband is going to leave me or not is overwhelming. My mind is always racing, making my own assumptions, playing various scenarios in my mind his things will play out, and it's gotten to the point where I can barely eat most days. Even when I'm not actively thinking about the matter, my subconscious is trying to keep me on edge. The stress is taking a toll on my body too. My stomach is constantly upset, and the anxiety has me all fidgety. It feels like my body is deteriorating alongside my mental health, and I'm just trying to hold everything together to be the partner I need to be for my husband, if he even wants that. The stress of waiting for my husband's decision is eating away at me. He hasn't said whether he's open to reconciliation yet, and that uncertainty is wearing me down. If anyone has advice on how to manage this anxiety or just how to cope better, I'd love to hear it. Thanks for reading, and I wish everyone the best. Final update. I've been sitting with a lot of thoughts and feelings lately. I want to vent. I have nobody to do so in real life, so please bear with me. A few days ago, my husband handed me divorce papers. I never expected this, not in a million years. I keep asking myself, how could he? He's been distant ever since D-Day, but I thought we were slowly working through things. Apparently, I was wrong. He didn't say much when he gave them to me, just that I shouldn't expect anything in the divorce. He's been avoiding me since, not staying around long enough to talk things through. Till he dropped the documents in my hand, I thought we were working toward reconciliation, but guess we weren't. My parents hate me for what I did, and my in-laws want nothing to do with me either. All our mutual friends have taken his side, and I don't blame them. I was the one who blew everything up. It feels like my entire support system has crumbled, and I don't know how to pull myself out of this. What's even more difficult to admit is that I've been having these dark thoughts lately, ones I thought were behind me. Part of me wants to go back to my AP, just for a quick fix of the thrill that I know is toxic. It's almost like I'm drawn to the escape from the pain, even though I know it'll only make everything worse. I haven't acted on it, and I don't want to, but the temptation is there, and it scares me. I talked about it in therapy, but my therapist focused more on what I want for the future rather than giving me a clear answer on whether or not to confess these thoughts to my husband. These aren't normal flashbacks or memories of the affair. They're more like the same kind of thinking that led me down that road in the first place. I'm not on apps or looking for anything, but I catch myself daydreaming about what it would be like to just give up on this mess and start fresh with someone else. It's like this lazy, wishful thinking, wanting an easy way out rather than facing the consequences of my actions and the mess I created. I don't know where they're coming from. Maybe it's the exhaustion of trying to rebuild something I'm afraid I've already destroyed beyond repair. Maybe it's the guilt, or maybe it's just me wanting an escape from the heavy weight of my mistakes. But even with all that, I can't shake the feeling that I need to tell him. The problem is, I don't know if he would want to hear it, or if it's just going to make everything worse. And now, with the divorce papers in my hands, it feels like maybe that decision has been made for me. He's done. He's giving up, and I can't blame him. I know I made this mess. It's hard to accept that even after months of working on myself, my mistakes have finally caught up with me, and it's probably too late to fix things. Part of me wonders if I should even fight it. These thoughts of giving up, of walking away, they feel like something I should confess to him. But what good would it do? He's already at the point where he's ready to walk away, and maybe I should let him. So, this is where I am now. Sitting with divorce papers and these unresolved thoughts, trying to figure out what my future looks like without him. I guess the truth is, I don't know what's next. I just wanted to thank everyone who's followed my story and given advice. It's been hard, and I think it's time for me to move on and let him do the same.